Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. So today I'm actually doing the January Blues tag. I was tagged by the lovely Misamen and I back in January, shockingly enough. I didn't get around to doing it because my filming schedule was pretty janky at the time. It's not January, however, the whole point of the tag is to cheer people up during a month which is usually a bit of a weird one for most people. And for reasons best left unsaid at the moment, I think we all need a bit of cheering up, so I thought I might as well do the January Blues tag because it feels relevant. You can disagree, but yeah, so I'm gonna do this tag and hopefully there might be some stuff to help you in it. So the first question is, what is a book that you've read so far in 2020 that has cheered you up? I have picked, let's turn brightness. You Look Like a Thing and I Love You by Janelle Shane. This is a non-fiction book about artificial intelligence. If you can see that super cute drawing on the front, it is full of adorable doodles like that. This book sounds terrible, like non-fiction book about artificial intelligence does not sound like a fun time, but believe me, this is one of the funniest books I've read this year still. It's told in a super accessible way. Those cute drawings are throughout. It doesn't really tell you what AI is, but it tells you what it can do, and it gives really hilarious examples of throughout about like an AI that is designed to generate ice cream flavours, an AI which is designed to generate recipes, My Little Pony names, all that kind of thing. And it sort of demonstrates how bad AI is by using these examples of real AI and how they generate terrible names. I laughed so much when reading this book. It's genuinely really funny and it really cheered me up, so I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a non-fiction book that's still light-hearted and isn't actually hard to pay attention to. It's a really good book for when your brain won't switch on. The next question is to recommend a book set in winter. I actually have a whole video dedicated to winter thrillers and horror books, so I will link that down below. If you want something a bit more light-hearted, there's a bunch of Christmas romances, which I guess would be a bit weird to read at this time. But yeah, I will just link that video down below for this one. Next question is to recommend a book set in the dark. I actually really struggled with this one because despite reading a lot of horrors and thrillers, I can't think of like most books. I don't think I've read almost any books that are set in the dark. But I did come up with Disco Death Trap by Cameron Rubicune. This is a New Year's Eve book, which perfectly fits with me doing a January tag in April/May. This is a horror book about a group of teenagers who go to a roller disco on New Year's Eve and then they get locked in and then all the lights turn out and then a murderer starts killing all of them. It might not necessarily be very nice feel-good writing reading at the moment, but I really enjoyed this book. It's a great horror book and honestly I think it's literally the only book that I've read that is set in the dark, so I had to put it for this one. Similarly, we have recommend a book set in a cold climate and guess what? It's a horror book. Thin Air by Michelle Paver. I've talked about this book before. I think it's on my winter list that I'm linking down below, but this is a horror book about a group of people who climb a mountain and weird stuff starts to happen, ghostly stuff starts to happen as they climb this mountain. It's a really good book. I really enjoyed it. It's very absorbing, this book, so again, it might not necessarily cheer you up at the moment, but if you want a book that you can just read and not think about anything else, this is actually a really good book for that. The writing is beautiful, it's very compelling, it's also super short, so again, it's not too strenuous if you're struggling with reading at the moment. It's only about, I think, 200 pages, maybe less, so a super quick read, or a book that you can kind of it's not an intimidating book, if that makes sense. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Next we have a recommend a book that takes place over a whole year, and this is a feel-good book. This is Freshers by Tom Allen and Lucy Iverson. This I'm actually going to reread, I think. I read this book last year and loved it. This is a book about two university students and they knew each other from secondary school and they start at university and she's had a crush on him for ages, and they kind of start flirting, and it's about their friendship and just university hijinks. It's set at a British university, and I don't know how American or audiences from other countries would appreciate this book in terms of, I don't know how transferable the experiences are, but this is actually set at York University, which is where I attended and where I'm doing my PhD now, so obviously it's super relatable for me. But yeah, I love this book so much. It's just fun, it's easy reading, it is, you don't have to think much, it's entertaining, it's got some really good stuff going on. This is definitely a good book for when you're feeling down, and I think I'm definitely going to read it myself again. The next question is, recommend a cozy spot to read. Obviously, we cannot leave our houses right now. My favourite spot to read is a corner. And that sounds super weird. I've always really liked corners. So I like kind of sitting in a corner and then wrapping myself in a blanket if it's cold, which it has gone chilly again now. The sun keeps coming in and out, but it is quite cold today. And just reading. Yeah, basically I would have, it's hard, especially if you're like me, you don't have much space at the moment. I have this room and a kitchen which I share, so I have this room. But if you can keep your workplace and your reading place separate, that's always good. And just take the time to make things look nice. No one wants to work in a terrible place, and no one wants to read in a terrible place, so yeah, just you can keep it simple, but you can keep it cozy. The next question is, recommend a reading snack. I don't eat while I read, for very good reason. This is an awful story, a lot of people are going to yell at me, but I borrowed a book from the library before all this began, and I was reading it in the morning, and I decided to eat, my breakfast was like some chocolate waffles, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll read in bed, I'll eat these waffles. I dropped the waffle into the book and smeared chocolate on one of the pages, and I felt so bad, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's not like you can wash a book. So yeah, now that library book is tainted because of me, and that is just a perfect example of why I don't eat whilst reading. So the best reading snack is a cup of tea or hot chocolate or coffee or whatever your particular beverage jam is. Mine is tea usually. But yeah, I mean, obviously people can probably eat neater than I can, but clearly I can't be trusted, so I don't eat while I read. The next question is, what books are you looking forward to coming out in 2020? So I'm actually doing a video soon. It's a bit late, but I do videos every 3 months, covering the next 3 months about all the 2020 releases I'm excited for. Off the top of my head, I think it just came out, If It Bleeds by Stephen King is a new set of novellas, which I don't actually know if I can read now because I think they're set in the Finders Keepers universe, and I've not read those books yet, so I'll have to look into that. There's also the sequel to Bird Box, which I'm intrigued about. That's Mallory, by Josh Malerman, and I really want to know what they're going to do with that. And Pretending by Holly Bourne has just come out. That's an amazing book. It will break your heart. Look out for the trigger warnings for that as well, super important. But I love that book, that was really good. And I will link the first 2020 releases video I did down below, but the other one should either be out shortly before this video or come out shortly after. So keep an eye out for that. And the final question is, are you feeling any better about it being January now? Well, it's not January, but I guess I'll use this opportunity to talk a bit more about me. I have been up and down. Everything's a cycle at the moment with this lockdown and everything. At the moment, I'm feeling really positive, which is why I'm filming. Last week was the lowest I have been. I don't know if that will happen again, but if it does, I know now how to deal with it. I would just say everyone needs to be kind to yourself. It's a super weird time. There's a lot of pressure to use that time to be productive, and I don't necessarily think that's a good idea. I think if you can do something that makes you feel good, then you should, but that doesn't necessarily have to be a productive thing. When I was down, I literally sat in bed and watched a garbage dating show on Netflix because, you know what, that's what made me feel a little bit better. And yeah, I want to end this video on a depressing note, but I will just say I'm feeling positive-ish about the future, and I feel like I'm not positive in a way that is fine. that makes sense. Like, I'm not worried about my negativity because it makes sense because of the world. But yeah. So yeah, thank you so much for tagging me, Simone. This probably wasn't the video you intended me to do, but I've done it now. I'm not going to tag anyone for this because it's not January, but if you want to do this tag in a similar way to how I did, go for it, then I can justify it a little bit more. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, it helps me out massively, and I hope to see you next time.